The girl glued a piece of broken mirror onto the broom, hid in the corner, and cautiously reached out. The assassin accurately hit his target, but just as he was quietly pleased, he discovered the opponent had produced a second mirror. He didn't hesitate for a moment. He hit the mirror again, causing damage, but didn't expect the girl to produce a third mirror. This time, the position was obviously even more tricky, though he didn't know the purpose behind her actions. But the killer still pulled the trigger, and at that moment, he missed. The bullet veered off and struck the doorway, making the girl immediately overjoyed. It seemed he had found a way to save his life because he remembered his real uncle once said that human eyes cannot see everything perfectly. All spaces have blind spots. As long as one can make good use of these blind spots, one can preserve their life when encountering danger. After the recent tests, Jian finally found the location of the blind spot. The bullet was flying from left to right, so the sofa position along the diagonal direction should be the blind area. Moreover, the bullet just veered off, indicating a position as high as the door frame. After drawing these conclusions, Jian trusted public security and immediately climbed onto the refrigerator behind the door. Meanwhile, the assassin noticed that the target hadn't moved for a long time and alerted his companion to move the car forward. Sure enough, this tactic worked. He saw the girl hiding nervously on top of the refrigerator. At this moment, Jian finally made up his mind and suddenly leaped down from the refrigerator. Jiang unfortunately dodged the deadly strike and hurriedly tried to pick up the handgun that had fallen under the sofa, but the gun was too far for him to reach no matter how hard he tried. Jiang An was immediately forced to use all his strength to flip the sofa, but the next second he was stunned because there was a sniper rifle hidden under the sofa. At this moment, the assassin was preparing to continue the hunt, but he was surprised to find that he had become the prey of the other party. The girl's name was Ji An, and she originally had a happy and complete family. But ever since her uncle, who had disappeared for 8 years, suddenly returned, everything was completely changed. Grandma unfortunately was involved in a car accident, and the domineering driver was never found. Jian's parents stayed at the funeral home to handle the funeral. They entrusted him to his uncle to take care of at home, but after the uncle suddenly received a phone call, he indeed said that something happened at the infirmary. "You stay home alone and be good. I'll call a friend to care for you, but you must not open the door directly. Instead, pose a riddle to test him, and if he answers correctly, you can open the door." Smart Jian immediately thought of a riddle. It makes the horse run, but cannot be ridden. When the uncle heard the answer, he immediately gave Jian a big compliment. Then he rushed to Group B1. Half an hour later, while Jian was watching a cartoon, he suddenly heard a series of lock-picking sounds outside the door. He hurriedly shouted, "Are you my uncle's friend?" But there was no response, only continuous attempts to open the lock. It was Anjuan's bravery that brought him into the doorway. So he tiptoed and looked out through the peephole, but saw a stranger, though hiding where he couldn't see.
그냥 문을 열어줄 순 없고 지금부터 수수께끼 내겠어. 이제 정답을 말하면 문을 열어줄 거야. 말은 말인데 타지 못하는 말은?
Jian waited for a long time but never received an answer from the other party. He was about to continue questioning when he saw that the door lock had been opened. A fierce-looking man slowly walked in, and Jian was immediately frightened and stood frozen, but the man was just about to make a move. Immediately, the sound of fighting came from outside the door, making Jian's legs tremble uncontrollably with fear. That after a while, the fighting suddenly stopped as another man burst in. Jian was so frightened that he sat down heavily on the ground. The man seemed to be mute and took out his phone, typing the characters Fruma as the answer to the riddle. Jian finally breathed a sigh of relief, and the other party then typed a line on the phone. "I am your uncle's good friend. I'm sorry I'm late." Jian was about to say something, but then another disturbance came from outside. The man hurriedly ran out to check and discovered that a killer was quietly approaching. The man quickly hid the public security into the bedroom and instructed him to listen no matter what later. They absolutely should never have come out, but just as he closed the door, the assassin burst in wielding Xiaoyan's handgun. After several gunshots, the living room gradually fell silent, and Zuan couldn't hold back any longer. He quietly opened a gap in the door but saw Uncle Longya already lying on the floor, and one of his hands was also chopped off, and Jian was terrified. He hurriedly tried to find a place to hide, but after looking around, he saw that only under the bed was a place to conceal himself. Shortly after, 2 assassins entered the bedroom, but they not only checked the top of the bed but also rummaged through the wardrobe, yet they couldn't find any trace of Juan, so the only possibility was outside the window. Although Juan successfully jumped down from the top floor without sustaining any injuries, he was unfortunately struck by a car during his desperate attempt to escape and was violently thrown outward. He was immediately rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, but as he gradually regained consciousness from the coma, he heard from 2 police officers nearby that his parents had been brutally murdered in the clinic. Meanwhile, Uncle was nowhere to be found. As night fell, Juan was suddenly awakened by a nightmare. At the same time, the assassin who had appeared during the day. It seems that if he doesn't eliminate the problem completely, he absolutely won't give up. But when he lifted the blanket, he found that the target was gone. It turned out that Jian had long sensed the danger and was now anxiously evading the pursuit. Unexpectedly, he panicked and fled into the morgue, which undoubtedly threw him into a death trap. Jian was trying to find another way out, but the killer had already entered. The girl hid in the refrigerated cabinet, but when she turned around, she found herself lying next to her own mother. At this moment, although Jian was both shocked and scared, he didn't dare to show any signs of weakness. In fear, he hugged his cold mother, preparing to die in her embrace. After a burst of gunfire, a man suddenly opened the cabinet door. It was Jian's uncle, arriving just in time. From then on, Jian always followed his uncle. He never expected that 10 years later, his uncle would mysteriously die as well. Time returns to a few days ago when Jian had just been accepted to college and was coming down with his uncle's accompaniment. 可的宿舍，安妮可没想到一向神秘兮兮的舒服，这里自又做了一件怪事。他不仅将宿舍的窗户换成了航弹 board， 并且还安装上了一把 pit， 甚至还刻意并附了一个铁皮衣柜。连给治安的疑惑，说出严肃的解释道：“不然你遇到了什么危险，就可以躲进去的衣柜。即便是遇见了枪林弹雨，也躲不走你的小命。”治安对石乐开玩笑的回应着。不为什么会遇到枪林弹雨，的确的乌鸦，还是都小心自己的老命。可没想到仅仅只过了一例，这就按照话却一语成谶，叔叔的老命竟然真的没了。警方的认定叔叔是个杀，但居然是个失忆。以为自杀的人通常都会选择割腕，但为何叔叔却是割了自己的脖？警察告诉他不论过多猜测，因为这是经过法医验尸后的最终检。这番说法让治安也无力定，但在认领为尸体之后，他却在叔叔的身边看到了一个奇怪的英文词句，意思是协助杀人。治安来不及多想了，因为作为叔叔。However, he still had to handle the upcoming funeral arrangements. But at the funeral, Jian noticed some unfamiliar and strange individuals. For instance, this pair of twins. They did not participate in the memorial. They didn't engage in conversations, quietly leaving after sitting for a while. However, Jian lacked the energy to notice these odd people. After handling everything, he returned alone to his uncle's villa in the suburbs. Looking at the once blissfully happy family photo on the wall, Jian, who had not shed a single tear throughout, finally couldn't hold back and burst into loud sobs. At that moment, a boy named Zheng Ning walked in. He is Jian's hairstylist and was also an employee hired by his uncle before he passed. Responsible for maintaining his uncle's building materials and plumbing sales website. After comforting Jian, Zheng Ming stayed behind to help clean the room, but saw a trace of blood on the vanity cabinet. When he opened it, he found an old-fashioned flip phone hidden inside, proving that he had handed the phone over to Jian. But just as the two were full of confusion, Jian was stunned when phone received a text saying, "I've sent 70 million back to Han Yue, when can Horji receive it?" Is uncle's plumbing business really making so much money? Just then, the phone received another account alert from the bank. But when Jian saw Yue, he was shocked. He incredulously handed the phone to Zheng, asking him to help check the amount. After counting the digits, they confirmed the balance was a staggering 18.7 billion won. Here, the editor asks everyone for a favor. My math skills aren't good. Could any kind-hearted family members help convert 18.7 billion won to Chinese yuan? Thank you in advance. After calming down from the shock, Jian and Zheng opened Uncle Jindling's Pullman website. But after studying it for a long time, the two still couldn't understand why this business was so profitable. Then Zheng suddenly discovered some clues after a series of incomprehensible operations. Behind this plumbing business website, he happily opened a hidden dark web, and Jian also saw that the name of this dark web was the same as the tattoo on Uncle's body. They were all named assisting in murder, and what was sold inside were weapons and ammunition. This showed that Uncle was actually an illegal arms dealer, leaving Jian both laughing and crying. A pop-up message appeared on the website. I've received the money, when can I complete the transaction? After hesitating for a moment, Jian sent the other party a message saying, sorry. This shopping center is about to close, please provide your account so I can refund the money to you. Unexpectedly, the other party immediately replied, so, has your uncle really died? Just as both were extremely surprised, the other party continued, then you're also doomed today, Jian. Jian was instantly terrified and Zheng Ming quickly shut down the radio station. He also said that the other party must be a madman and told Jian not to take such things to heart. But just as both were panicked and uneasy, a doorbell rang outside. A woman claiming to be their uncle's Chinese teacher said Jinji had an appointment to come for class, but she was hiding a handgun in her backpack. Jian quickly said that their uncle was not home today and asked the woman to come back another day. But the woman was clearly unwilling to.
您是在公州教育大学上什么大学毕业吧？ 是不是经常夸你又聪明又漂亮？
我又不聪明，又不漂亮，又不是工匠大上学的。
After a round of mutual probing, the woman realized she couldn't fool Jian, so she took the initiative to leave. But just as she walked away, Jian received another message. It read, "Don't die because of others, or I'll come personally to kill you." Meanwhile, Proof also discovered some important clues on his uncle's ARMS website. He found that the website implemented a strict tiered code system. Only members with one of the 4 color codes granted by the operator could purchase items on the site. The red code identifies a killer who can buy firearms, ammunition, and other murder-related items. The purple code identifies a spy who can purchase various eavesdropping or surveillance devices. The yellow code identifies a cleaner who can buy various tools needed to clean crime scenes. Lastly, there's the green code. The function of this code is exceptionally powerful, absolutely surpassing the capabilities of the other 3 codes. Cannot attack the green code. In case someone violates this regulation, then all who obtain the code must. He asked in a low voice, "We must desperately protect the green code, as public security has been overthrown by this oppressive code system." The common people answered, "This green code certifies the operators of murder-assisting websites. My uncle earned 10,000 gold, and so do you." Zheng Juan couldn't help but laugh and cry. He didn't know whether to thank his uncle for protecting him or to resent him for twisting his own life and death rights. Just at the point when the two of them felt completely uncertain and unsure about how to proceed in their current situation. They hurried to the living room but were stunned by the scene before them. The villa's outer wall had inexplicably collapsed. Before they could recover, a drone slowly appeared before them. Even more terrifying was that it was armed with powerful firearms. Several drones suddenly descended from the sky and began to surround the entire villa. The two of them immediately started. Fortunately, Uncle's house had bulletproof glass. Otherwise, they might have already been smashed to pieces. Zheng Ming hurriedly took out his phone to call the police for help. However, they found that the communication signal had disappeared, which was clearly a tactic employed by the enemy. They hurriedly tried to escape through the back door but saw that a drone was already waiting again. At that moment, they realized that Uncle was so ruthless and insane that he hadn't even made the house doors bulletproof. Such strong defensive capabilities immediately gave them some courage, so they returned once more to. But the surrounding drones still hadn't left. Clearly, the operators were contemplating how to break open the door. After a while, several mud-like substances were sprayed onto the bulletproof glass, but upon closer inspection, these were actually powerful bombs. They were truly in trouble, like two glowing turtles at the mercy of others. Amid the chaos, the two of them each hid in a room, and fortunately, it seemed their luck was still holding. There was even a... Therefore, he quickly took cover by hiding inside the building just as a drone soon flew into the area. After conducting some observation, the drone finally locked onto its intended target, namely this clinic, but it's difficult to... It was as if looking through boots, blind to the truth. An involuntary bout of secret rejoicing, but he, the prince, was happy. Seeing that evidence that his life was now in danger, at the critical moment, security suddenly appeared at the door. In practice, he held a slingshot, just took aim. Not sure if the drone was of poor quality or if the security force was truly that strong, but the drone was shot down. The security alliance picked up a stool and started a fight. They quickly smashed the drone to bits. He was trying to comfort Zheng Yi, who had been frightened, but noticed that the iron wardrobe's door still had a handle welded on. It seems Uncle had prepared for this. This wardrobe can not only be used to hide from pursuers, but also as a movable shield. The two cautiously walked out of the room. But another drone immediately appeared and Zuan was obviously confident in his slingshot. Without hesitation, he fired a shot. But in the next second, it was proven that the drone he had just used was indeed of poor quality. However, before he was satisfied, the drone suddenly stopped attacking. Jian initially thought another quality issue had arisen, but instead he was met with a shock. Seeing that the two were about to perish, fortunately, his uncle's Chinese teacher appeared just in time during the critical moment. He used a strange narrative gun to disable all the drones in the yard. As Zheng Ming was about to escape, he was caught by the Chinese teacher who had ambushed him nearby. In no time, he was riding on Zheng Ming's back, then he swiped his watch over the other person's wrist. Apparently to verify Zheng Ming's identity, when she saw nothing displayed on his watch, the woman fiercely demanded to know who he was. Trying to explain that he was a good friend of Jian, the woman without a word pulled out a powerful sedative from her pocket and hit Zheng Ming on the neck with it. After only a few seconds, Zheng Ming gradually passed out, having witnessed all of this firsthand. Jian quickly pulled back his slingshot and engaged in a face-to-face confrontation with the woman just as she was about to speak. However, Jian suddenly took the initiative. He didn't expect the woman to react so swiftly, allowing her to narrowly dodge the deadly strike. Immediately, they began a close-quarters fight. However, Jian's flashy moves seemed utterly disgusting in the woman's eyes. Soon he had pinned Jian down, but he didn't harm Jian. He merely swept his hands and feet swiftly across his wrist, and upon seeing it display the green code stone, the woman immediately breathed a sigh of relief. And immediately released Jian, but Jian remained vigilant, adopting a stance ready to attack at any moment. The woman was just about to explain. They quickly hid in a corner, while the nearby assassin, though temporarily unsuccessful, continued to watch them intently. At that moment, the woman finally explained to Jian. He was revealed to belong to his uncle's assassin aid website and learned that his uncle had been killed. He rushed over to fulfill his membership obligations, which involve protecting the security of those who possess the green dami. However, not everyone is as trustworthy as he is, and there are also a group of shameless members. They wanted to wage a fierce battle over the weapons and vast assets left by uncle. Led by a man named Chang Mao, they had already completely surrounded the comfortable courtyard. During the ensuing attack, Chang Mao kept hitting the woman's hands and also recognized her identity. It turned out the woman's name was Min Hui, who surprisingly possessed both red and purple codes. But now he was seriously injured, and Zuan understood that to survive he could only rely on himself. After quickly calming down, he placed a broken mirror on the broom and tested a few more times. He finally succeeded in determining Chang Mao's approximate position and also deduced the opponent's blind spot, so he shed tears from the refrigerator. Fortunately, he avoided Chang Mao's fatal strike and hid behind the sofa located in the blind spot. But he never expected that uncle had a sniper rifle hidden under the sofa. Without any hesitation or doubt, he promptly loaded a bullet, effectively transforming himself from the vulnerable prey into the determined hunter. Without hesitation, he decisively pulled the trigger of the gun. I am so incredibly and deeply frustrated with this situation. I honestly feel as if I could just die. Let's have a serious conversation about this. Zheng An was pushed to the ground by the powerful recoil. Although he didn't kill the enemy with a single shot, his burning aura immediately relieved Min Hui's burden. I always thought you'd like me, as expected of Brother Hao. Before Zheng An could react, the enemies started to break in, but under the fire of S-class assassin Min Hui, an upstart was instantly sent to Cherry B. As more and more enemies were about to storm in, the Minghui alliance had the two hide in the warehouse at the back. Since their uncle had unexpectedly built an underground mortuary inside, Chang Mao wouldn't let the two off the hook. The heavy firepower immediately left Zheng Ming and Shade immobilized, while Zheng An was soothing Zheng Ming's emotions. However, his exposed head was targeted by Chang Mao, who hadn't anticipated it. You will find out that there is absolutely no way for you to escape this situation. I'm on my way right now. The bullet struck the long-barreled sniper rifle and ricocheted. The unlucky driver died instantly on the spot. Taking this chance, Jian and Zheng Ming hurriedly took cover in the warehouse, but after searching for a long time, they still couldn't find the entrance to the secret base. At the same time, the assassins heavily surrounded the warehouse, and Min Hui immediately retreated, simultaneously fending off enemy attacks and quickly erecting a barricade. The entrance to the hospital room was near Uncle's workstation, and Jian immediately understood. Sure enough, he quickly found an iron box, but when he opened it, there was a combination lock inside. Both were momentarily confused, and Jian frantically tried their uncle's and his own birthdays as the password, but unexpectedly, they were all wrong. The enemies were about to break in. Surprisingly, he was able to quickly and effectively manage to calm himself down. Similarly, from the same school, the following numbers are listed: 2019-074, 221-9074. Jian had a sudden inspiration and pressed the student ID that his uncle insisted he remember. Unexpectedly, it didn't open a door, but instead the entire workstation began to slowly descend. It descended to about the height of 3 floors before the elevator finally stopped. The two were immediately stunned by what lay before them. This underground secret base was not only vast in size, but it was also filled with various weapons and equipment, each type marked with different colored lights. It's hard to imagine how this place was constructed. But just as the two were stunned, they didn't notice a masked person appeared behind them. Faced with a mysterious armed individual, he still chose to be so tough. The mysterious person was quickly knocked unconscious by Lei, and Jihan pulled off the mask to reveal that the opponent was a somewhat sleazy-looking young man. And the evidence discovered next indeed further proved how threatening the man was. He had installed cameras in both Jian's school and home, even placing them inside the restroom. Jian was immediately furious. He turned around swiftly and kicked the other person violently, then picked up the gun decisively and pressed it firmly against his head, sternly questioning who he really was. "Why are you surveilling me?" But the man was just about to explain when Jung Min-kei clearly turned on the lights. "It hurts, sir!" Pat, let's go, not that padding. The price of this particular item is 675 UM. After all, every individual who has been born deserves recognition and consideration. Therefore, let us not delay any further and proceed with haste. We must hurry up without any additional hesitation. Jian didn't turn off the lights but kindly put clothes on the man. At this moment, the man finally began to explain. "My name is Aoi. I was adopted by your uncle since I was little. Moreover, I have been living in an underground base, and my mission is not only to oversee my funds, but also to monitor your every move." Just as Aoi wanted to continue speaking, Zhou Mingfu grabbed a cloth and tightly stuffed it into his mouth. Jian asked him why he did this. "I have to be careful, pretending to be serious, but it makes people feel sympathetic. It won't pass." After Shenbin finished explaining, he said he would go to locate the base's computer control system, although Jian was somewhat puzzled by his behavior, but ultimately, she didn't take it to heart. Then, at that moment, Aoi suddenly removed his gloves and told Jian not to trust the evidence, then quickly fled in panic. Jian hurriedly chased after him, wanting to ask what was going on, but after struggling a few times, the other party suddenly vanished. However, he didn't notice that Aoi had quietly arrived behind him. Then he swiftly reached into his bag and took out a powerful tranquilizer gun. Fortunately, Juan was exceptionally quick to deftly dodge the powerful attack, but Aoi saw his carefully laid plan fail, and Nianmang swiftly crawled under a large shelf for protection. However, when Juan finally caught up, "Ow!" It seems that Aoi had premeditatedly succeeded in locking Juan in the secret room, immediately after he turned off the power, causing Juan's weapon to drop instantly. Had everything that happened next, Juan could see from the monitor inside the secret room. Aoi, equipped with night vision goggles, stealthily crept up behind Junmin and, seizing his inattention, deployed a stun gun to knock him to the ground. Next, he tightly bound him up. Zuan was anxiously watching in the secret room. Unexpectedly, the scene suddenly shifted and Aoi appeared on the monitor. He asked Juan to take a book out of the drawer, which turned out to be the handover manual for the assistants in the murder website. Then Aoi proceeded to read it verbatim. "You have the right to choose whether to inherit the assistants in the murder website left by your uncle. If you agree to inherit it, I will unconditionally obey your commands," even giving up his own life. After announcing a series of rights and obligations regarding public security, Aoi finally asked if you agree to inherit the public security without hesitation. Writing "Ugly" on the paper, Aoi's face immediately showed a happy smile that the public security issued the first command to the heir. That was to quickly let me out. Aoi did not hesitate to obey the new master's command immediately, but seeing Juan with a murderous expression. Aoi hurriedly explained that all of this was arranged by his uncle, Juan Kui, taking advantage of not having his hand then taken away and ordering him to immediately release proof. Who would have expected that Aoi would disobey the order this time and say that uncle died because of proving his name? This was a vote from the blue for his childhood friend, with whom he'd faced life and death. How could he be uncle's murderer amid doubts? Public security still let Aoi go, wanting to ask him face to face for clarification. Unexpectedly, proof immediately began to beat Aoi up in a fit of anger. Public security had no choice but to point their guns at justice and quickly proceed down. Do you now excuse your trust in this particular individual? Come on, let's drive quickly now. Proof quickly recounted their experiences of living and dying together to prove his innocence, insisting that Aoi was the real bad guy. Aoi was immediately cornered. He asked Jian to open the store and check a folder named 0404 where the truth was hidden, but just as Jian was about to open the folder, he... Don't do this, I'm seriously begging you now. At that particular moment, I honestly did not have any idea what would happen next for me. The door in this area has only been recently installed, which makes us think that perhaps some individuals are keeping a close watch on us. This man here might have the intention to kill us. No, we must stay cautious and find a way to stay safe. You aren't telling the truth. Please hurry up and continue watching without delay now. Jian hesitated to open the folder and show proof of a past event, revealing that Jian had faced a major school incident during his childhood. They were locked up in the school's warehouse by several senior students. Fortunately, Zhang Yun discovered it in time and informed his uncle, which allowed Jian to be rescued. After recalling this past event, Jian eventually chose to trust Zheng Ru. He aimed his gun at Aoi and ordered him to leave immediately, delivering ammunition and medicine to Minhui outside. Helplessly, Aoi had to obediently comply with the order, and Jian had just pulled the proof from the ground, but unexpectedly, the proof gave him a tight hug, and kept expressing gratitude that Jian chose to believe in him. Jian was clearly a bit bewildered, but he just wanted to embrace Zhengtao, yet Zhengming held him tightly again, and unfinished. Absolutely not, there is truly no way that this situation could ever occur at this time. When I finally realized the situation, you were still attending classes at your school. Why exactly would you take that? But before he could react, his neck was struck with a powerful anesthetic. By the time Jian regained consciousness, he found himself tied to a stool, while Zheng Mingze, with a mocking look, revealed the truth. It turns out he had long joined a killer organization called Babylon. This organization harbors deep-seated hatred towards Uncle Zheng Jingwan of public security. Under Babylon's direction, Zheng Mingze, posing as Jian's childhood friend, successfully gained Zheng Jingwan's trust. On the surface, he worked as a warehouse manager, but in reality, he used his hacking skills to advance the murder assistance website founded by Zheng Jingwan. Upon learning that he not only possessed a fortune from Jinmen but also had hidden a large arsenal, Babylon, upon discovering all this, developed covetous intentions. However, instead of confronting Zheng Jingwan directly, they ordered Zheng Mingze. At this point, Zhengmin also took out a USB drive and played the video inside. A segment of the footage had the evidence been suspended by Zheng Jinglao. It seemed that Zheng Jinwan's true identity had been discovered, but he didn't dare to act rashly. He was only listening to a recording on his phone. Can you recall all the things that I have told you? He was originally planning to kill me, which has certainly made the situation really very difficult. Please, I need you to hurry up and take that off immediately. That feels amazingly better than before. Sister Xiaoyan, 3 pigs. At this moment, I truly have no understanding of what exactly is happening here now. After listening to the recording several times and confirming it was his niece's voice, he stabbed a dagger into Zheng Yin's mouth and calmly said, "I will do as you told me. But you must also abide by the agreement and immediately release the security." After receiving the promised proof, Zheng Jinwan cut the ropes with his knife and then turned to enter the bathroom. And Zheng Min did break free. Also hurriedly entered the door but saw Zheng Jingwei had already slit his own neck, dying in the bathtub. Zulan obviously couldn't believe what she saw. I would like to know in detail what exactly is going on right now. I never actually said anything like that at any point, and now it seems that you are going completely silent. During your voice recording in the studio, may I wait there 10 minutes? Liu Zongxing is a dedicated volunteer creating Chinese subtitles. Chinese subtitle had been kindly provided by Li Zongsheng. Now, Jian felt both regret and hatred. She didn't realize she was gradually killing her uncle. After calming down, she immediately took the initiative. After a round of verbal appeals, he successfully incited Zhengming's anger, but at the same time, this was also his point. I finally understand the concept you were explaining earlier. The lineup, lacking speed and strength, was quickly knocked to the ground by the public security. Seizing the opportunity, Jian quickly hid in a corner and set a trap using lubricant and ropes, successfully trapping Zhengmin, who was momentarily careless. The cunning Zhengmin quickly begged for help, but Jian without hesitation kicked him unconscious. Meanwhile, the killer squad led by Chang Mao was also preparing to act, but before starting, they first sent out a robotic dog to serve as the vanguard. He was seen rushing towards the courtyard at a speed of 80 miles per hour, while the main force immediately converged and approached. At this moment, Aoi was smashing and looting in the corridor. Min Kui next to him obviously thought he was mad, but unexpectedly, after breaking through the wall, he discovered a small armory hidden inside. Next, Aoi took out the computer and started operating it furiously. Although it may seem like an ordinary house at first glance, every aspect has been carefully designed to allow it to function effectively for defense at any given time, ensuring it can provide the necessary protection whenever you need it. This is still not enough. This is not enough. After Aoi pressed the button, shutters immediately descended over all the doors and windows, observing closely. The courtyard was about to become a steel fortress, so the assassins quickly sped up and rushed toward the target, while the robotic dog took the lead and entered the room first. After Minhui realized it, he immediately launched a fierce attack. However, he didn't expect the robot fighter to be even more agile than a real fighter, causing Ninghui's bullets to penetrate its weapon. Meanwhile, the assassins began their attack as well. In a moment of urgency, Aoi quickly instructed Minhui to retreat to the corridor and raised an iron gate at the junction. The robotic dog tried to jump in, but Minju fired a shot, pushing it back 2 meters. Too late. It then turned and got stuck beneath the entrance's iron door. The assassins who arrived shortly after were instantly baffled, each experiencing a serious professional crisis. The advanced robotic dog grew an impressively long tail that firmly grounded it, then smoothly extended a sparkling diamond block from its mouth. The group of assassins outside immediately felt like they were facing a formidable enemy and quickly put on gas masks. In just 10 seconds, the 5-centimeter thick iron rod was activated. But this matter isn't concluded yet. Then, the robotic dog extended another strange tongue towards the door. Inside the iron gate, it was immediately filled with gas, and just as the assassins were on high alert, an unexpected event occurred. The assassins saw the robotic dog lose mobility on the spot, and for a moment dared not act recklessly. But at that moment, a flashbang was thrown from inside the door. It immediately dazzled everyone's eyes, and then the performance officially began. I love you. Clearly caught off guard by the attack, the assassins realized too late as the woman had already hidden behind the iron-based sofa base. After a barrage of gunfire, the assassins had run out of bullets and quickly started reloading. And thus, the woman achieved a brief short-term outcome. Both parties were prepared to balance each other, then played music and danced. Alright. Minhui almost single-handedly wiped out all of the enemy forces, but he also completely used up all the ammunition. So he quickly withdrew inside the iron door, but the surviving assassin leader would not easily give up. Seeing that he was about to attack Jian from behind, he hurriedly took out 2 hand grenades from his pocket. With only a single fleeting glance, Minhui quietly and tacitly disengaged the safety mechanism. Afterwards, Jian promptly threw it outside. After an explosion, the assassins seemed to have been completely wiped out, and the 3 of Jian hurriedly hid in the bathroom. However, Minhui was unfortunately shot and severely injured. What was worse was that the assassin leader was still alive. He kicked him away. Without saying a word, just causing chaos, then grabbed Jiang Jian and dragged him into the corridor. After Avi regained consciousness, Lian Mom pounced, but her small arms and legs were not enough, and she was quickly beaten up. Jian was immediately forced to use the Thai boxing he had been training in for half a year. He charged forward to confront the enemy, but the gap in their strength was indeed too wide. He was quickly beaten with no energy to even look around, but the stubborn Jian did not lose because of this. Noticing that he was still attempting to rise, the stealthy assassin unexpectedly revealed himself and executed a forceful throw, which utterly incapacitated Jian. But just as he was about to deal a fatal blow, he suddenly thought of Jiang Ji. He still slapped his entire family today. Are you feeling okay today? At this time, I will go ahead and deposit just half of the required amount into the account. The assassin was obviously harboring a grudge about his appearance being ruined and completely ignored Chang Mao's warnings. He took out a bolt of snot and was about to wipe Jian's half-face as well. Unexpectedly, Mantis caught Cicada. Oriole roared as he acted. Cooling heroically saved Jian Zizheng, who was not only his experienced Mordecai mentor but also a trusted and very good friend of his uncle. Sadly, it appeared that Tai Tian had taken his final breath and immediately jumped into the teacher's arms. After stabilizing his emotions, Atai warned Jian that time was up. Chinese subtitles provided. And the man he mentioned, named Bell, is the leader of the Babylon organization and also the one who killed Jian's parents. A few girls were deceived by a snakehead to the Golden Triangle. Fortunately, a group of mercenaries discovered him while on a mission. The girls originally thought they had grasped a lifeline, but unexpectedly, these mercenaries threw a grenade directly into the prison cell. After the explosion, the man looked at the tiger with a strange expression, and this demeanor was just like a bloodthirsty beast. Upon hearing the commotion, the village head Zheng Jingwan hurried over. Upon seeing the tragic situation in the cell, he immediately took action. Looked at the crowd. The girl and I discovered a hidden garden behind the old library on our school grounds yesterday afternoon. Zheng Jinglong didn't believe Chang Mao's excuses at all. He was certain that the squad leader was behind all this, because the other side had harmed civilians more than once during missions. But when confronted by the team leader's questioning, Fel showed no concern and reached for his gun holster. Zheng Jing never expected that tonight a few team members had already become Bell's accomplices, making him even more brazen as he, in the role of squad leader, defied authority. Zheng Jing and the tribal leader became seriously tense. Both sides were on edge, ready to spill blood at any moment in this critical situation. The cunning Chang Mao quickly stepped out to mediate, saying, "Do you want us to kill ghosts?" "You also put down your guns. What are you after?" To prevent a situation of mutual slaughter between parties, they had once recklessly chosen to proactively compromise, and under Bell's signal, several of his subordinates finally put down their guns. "I will extinguish it first, then cook." After issuing the order, Zheng Jingwanbian went with his confidant Atai to install the bomb, but it was clear from Fei Er's face that he had evidently decided to kill. A few minutes later, Zheng Jinglang had just installed a timed bomb in the room when he suddenly heard some movement coming from the wardrobe, and just as he was about to approach to investigate, a woman dressed like that suddenly rushed out, and Zheng Jingwan swiftly disarmed the dagger in her hand in just a few moves. "She wanted me to witness you making a strategic move." The woman clearly regarded Zheng Jingwan as a significant and feared villain operating within the notoriously dangerous Golden Triangle region. But he never expected that the man in front of him would put clothes on him and signal him to quickly hide. Moments later, the mercenary squad completed the mission and was preparing to retreat. But Zheng Jinglan said there was still a bomb left unset off, so he ordered his team to leave first and quietly. The commander was convinced. Atai had to keep a close eye on Bell. After the team retreated, he hurried back to the building and asked the woman named Min Hui, "Do you miss me?" Seeing that the bomb was about to explode in 6 minutes, the Zheng Jingwan alliance left with Min Hui. Unexpectedly, as they reached the stairway, they saw Bell blocking their path. It seemed that only one person could leave alive today. The two didn't use firearms following mercenary rules. Instead, they drew daggers and engaged in close combat. However, Zheng Jingwan was no match for Bell. It seemed he was about to die on the spot. Min Hui shot Bell in the left eye. Seeing him still struggling, Zheng Jingwan hurriedly went up and delivered a few more slashes. But unexpectedly, he was like an unkillable little gun. "Scoundrels, can you please explain what is going on?" "They've appeared now. I consider and regard you with the same feelings and respect that I would have for a close and trusted friend. In the madman's tribe followed by a large pack of dogs, I will die in the end just as every living being must eventually perish." Zheng Jingwan angrily picked up the rope gun from the ground, aiming to kill Bell immediately, only to find the handgun had no bullets. At this moment, there was only a little over a minute before the bomb exploded. If we don't retreat quickly, both of us would likely stay here and be buried with Bell. The minute passed in the blink of an eye amid a violent explosion. The entire building was instantly reduced to rubble, and Zheng Jingwan and Min Hui luckily escaped. They were hiding in the secluded building on the remote beach to avoid being discovered by others. The captains have already entered the room. When I encounter the dangerous circumstances that they present to me, I have been with you to please. They will surely miss one another. Although I can escape from near the window, I choose to stay inside safely. Zheng Jinwan had prepared a set of excuses in advance tonight, carefully handling the mercenary group's internal investigation, and he also voluntarily resigned from this 8-year job citing physical injury. But this boss clearly did not believe in these excuses, so right after Zheng Jinwan left, he ordered someone to secretly follow him. Before leaving, according to the mercenaries' tradition, Zheng Jinwan gathered with the team members to pat each other's backs facing Chang Mao, the old fox. Zheng Jinwan did not dare to relax at all, and he clearly felt that in this team he had built single-handedly, there were still good brothers worth relying on. Although some still regarded him as a thorn in their side, Zheng Jingluan returned to his family after 8 years, reuniting with his mother, brother, and sister-in-law. He finally experienced the long-missed warmth of family affection, and his love for his never-before-met niece brought him serenity. Furthermore, it made him feel an inexplicable calm, which he did not expect to maintain 10 years later. But the family was shattered and its members perished, leaving only the pitiful security behind, and they are currently being chased by a group of mercenaries. The reason all this happened is because of that man named Bell. He has returned from hell. Yes, I completely understand what you're saying. Atai endured a headache and fired several bullets, but when they hit at the robotic dog, it was as if he was tickling it. If this continues, I'm afraid everyone's heads will turn to mush. You'll just try to fight to the death, huh? Everyone originally thought reinforcements had arrived in time, but unexpectedly, what came were 3 Deathbringers. Originally, we intended to get down the wall first. Hit in the abdomen by the opponent's quick moves, looking at these 2 former comrades before him, Atai gradually took his stance, declaring that today he would go to hell with them, and this pair of twins were collected according to the rules of the mercenary group. He swiftly drew a sharp dagger from his sheath and launched a deadly attack. At the same time, Juan also smirked at Chang Mao in the room, but his flashy and elaborate moves were completely ineffective in the face of the highly experienced and skilled Chang Mao. Just as he was about to meet demise at his foe's hands, a Wei suddenly appeared from behind as if divinely intervened. Unfortunately, the kid couldn't handle local security, let alone match Chang Mao. However, Wei bravely restrained Chang Mao's movements, giving Juan the opportunity to flee quickly, but he himself soon fell under Chang Mao's gun. Juan hurriedly fled to the warehouse, attempting to hide in the underground secret bunker, but as he turned around, he saw Chang Mao already trailing behind. In a panic, he had no choice but to remain silent. But at this moment, Sheng Ming broke free from the ropes and climbed up from the underground base. He was seen picking up a silent void from the ground. With a vehement gesture pointing towards the empty space above him, he broke the oppressive silence that filled the room, fervently venting his intense anger by exclaiming, "You bastard, I'm absolutely doomed." Eating habits. You little brat, it is absolutely impossible for me to ever become a person just like you are in any way. Facts showed he was indeed very angry, and Chang Mao effortlessly made Zheng Ming take the lead against him. Taking advantage of their heated argument, Zhe'an quickly hid in the underground base. But he soon realized that Chang Mao had also come down, so Zhe'an had to use his familiarity with the terrain to play hide and seek with Chang Mao. After Chang Mao continued searching, he also devised a wicked plan. He attached several infrared bombs to his abdomen and then waited for Zhe'an to come. Sure enough, Zhe'an soon stepped into the trap. Thank you very much indeed. Fortunately, the bombs weren't very powerful and Zhe'an barely survived. But if this continues, he would sooner or later die at the hands of Chang Mao, that old fox. So Zhe'an chose not to sit and wait for death, but to take initiative and seize opportunity. It is so pitiful. Chang Mao was just celebrating escaping a disaster when he discovered he was lying in a pool of gasoline. At the same time, Xuan appeared before him holding a gun. Chang Mao was immediately engulfed in the blazing prey, but just when Zhe'an thought it was over, the fire extinguishing system automatically activated, quickly extinguishing the flames on Chang Mao's body. Chang Mao, who had narrowly escaped death, immediately acted in anger. At this point, no more miracles would happen. Zhe'an finally took out the enemy who killed his parents. At the same time, Atai also successfully killed the twins. Due to the urgency, Wen Hui treated her injuries well, and Wei also luckily escaped about a meter from Chang Mao's gun since he had put on a bulletproof vest in advance. But just when everyone thought it was over, another group of assassins suddenly surrounded the house. It turned out that the $4 million bounty was placed on Jiang Jian and the other 2 by members of the Babylon organization, and these assassins had also previously. The situation of Zheng Jinwan's client today can be described as a matter of life and death. In a moment of urgent security, Lian Mang drew a dead knife and swiftly decapitated Chang Mao. The assassins had already entered the warehouse, and just as they were preparing to assault the underground base, they saw Wei trembling in front of everyone, clad in a powerful barricade suit. Immediately, Zhe'an's voice came over the loudspeaker. After a brief greeting to everyone, he instructed Wei to throw out Chang Mao's severed head. This move undoubtedly served as a warning to deter the others. As a result, the assassins instantly developed a sense of awe towards Zhe'an, who proposed that if they desisted, he would transfer 4 million into their accounts immediately. He would evenly remit the funds to the accounts of these 18 assassins, and Zhe'an also promised to offer them certain discounts in future weapons transactions. As the saying goes, first courtesy, then force. Zhe'an then threatened, "If you refuse to abandon your plans, you will all die today." People die for money, and birds perish for food. Beef assassins are destined to die merely for money, so they quickly left. After everything ended, Jian knelt to the ground and began to cry loudly. After all, she was only an 18-year-old girl. The immense pressure had almost brought his spirit to collapse, but at that moment, Jian heard noises coming from afar again, and quickly got up to check the situation. But he saw a bus approaching just in time. Could it be that another group of assassins had arrived? At this moment, Jian had already lost all patience and shamelessly stood alone in front of the bus. Jian was already prepared to be run over, but unexpectedly, the bus suddenly stopped. A man in a suit stepped out, raised both hands, and handed Jian a business card. It turned out he was commissioned to clean the battlefield and was also a yellow coat client of Uncle Jim Jimwan. A few hours later, the cleanup work was finally completed. But everyone noticed another car approaching from afar. Could the mastermind Bell have come to kill directly? Everyone immediately became tense, preparing to confront the enemy head-on, but no one expected that the person who got out of the car was the already deceased genuine man, the murderer. The first even ends here. Stay tuned for more exciting content.